Hi, my name is Chris Pruitt. This is my persuasive speech on distracted driving. The other night, my wife and I were talking with our kids, and we were talking about texting and driving, and it persuaded me to do a speech on just that. So, here we go. One day, Jimmy was out for a leisurely drive. It was a beautiful day, so he picked up his girlfriend, Jane, and they wanted to take his convertible out for a ride along the coastline near the ocean. And as they took this drive, he decided, you know what, I don't have any distractions, so he put his phone away. And Jane was tasked with the fact of taking the pictures and posting things on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all those different things. So as they were driving down the road, Jimmy turned just for a second to get that picture, that perfect picture with the ocean in the background, so that Jane could get that great picture. And as he did, he turned for just a second. And in that moment, in that split second, their lives changed forever. By this time, Jimmy didn't see the guy, his name was Chad, who was coming across the road. He had parked over across the road from the ocean, and he was walking across the roadway with a surfboard. Now, as Chad was walking across, he's walking across in an area that was designated for crossing. But Jimmy was too involved with Jane that he didn't even see Chad as he passed by. Well, Jimmy hit him, and as Jimmy hit him, Chad flies up in the air, and he flies about 40 feet out away from Jimmy's car. And their lives change in that instant. As the police and the fire and rescue arrived, everybody was coming on the scene and was looking at Chad. Both his legs were broken, and he was fading in and out. He was unconscious, and Jimmy was afraid that Chad was going to die. But what had happened to Chad was something that happens to a lot of people. Chad survived this incident, so to say, but his world would never be the same. And we find ourselves in this situation where we have this promising young man who played baseball, who had offers to maybe play college ball. His whole life is shattered because of someone being distracted. See, Chad ends up alive, but he's paralyzed from the waist down and will never be able to walk again. Jimmy ended up driving again. A lot of people end up driving again, but he never drove quite the same. He never viewed things quite the same. See, we see this tragic scenario play out too often. So many people believe that we have to have these perfect driving skills, or we have these perfect driving skills, and we have these cat-like reflexes that this is never going to happen to me. A scenario like that will never happen to me. But the statistics show that drivers make many mistakes. The problem is that not all the mistakes affect us personally. It affects someone else. It affects another family. So we go about our daily lives not looking at it and not wanting to stop. But listen to this. In 2016, there were almost 50,000 crashes involving distracted driving in the state of Florida, which is more than 5 crashes every hour of distracted drivers. 5 crashes every hour. Last year, this distracted driving crashes accounted for more than 3,500 serious bodily injuries. Distracted driving has increased 26% since 2013. Today, my hope and prayer is to convince you that driving distracted is dangerous. And it's something that we as a group of people need to understand, that we don't need to drive distracted. But see, there are very few of us that can say that we have never driven distracted. I believe everyone would have to say they've driven distracted. So let me ask you a question. If you would say, I don't drive distracted very often, have you ever taken your eyes off the road ahead of you? Have you ever taken your hands off the steering wheel? Have you ever daydreamed about something or thought about something or had something affect the way you react while you're driving? Maybe your mind was somewhere other than where you're going. I personally do that quite often, thinking about things that need to be done. Have you ever texted? Have you ever Snapchatted? Have you ever looked at Facebook, looked at Instagram, or looked at what's going on, looked at your GPS system, looked at something on the web? Have you ever surfed the internet? Ladies, have you ever put on makeup while you're driving down the road? How about playing with the radio? See, all these things, if you said yes to any of those questions, you have driven distracted. You have driven distracted, and you have put other lives on the line because of your distraction. See, after a lot of research and reading about the senseless act of carelessness and being distracted, I am convinced that putting your phone away and keeping your hands and mind focused on what you are doing are more than important than whatever's going on. And I will guarantee that you will not be in a wreck if you do those things. Well, I can't guarantee you that you won't be in a wreck, but it will make your chances a lot better. But it will take your chances of being in a wreck way down. But see, there are three primary ways that people drive distracted. Three primary ways. There are visual, there is manual, there's cognitive distractions. Each one of these have a major effect on the way we drive. So, what is cognitive driving? And I apologize for the lack of knowing that word. Cognitive driving is thinking about anything other than driving. Like my mind right now is going, I'm distracted. I have somebody walking in and out of where I'm speaking at. And so that was, I'm distracted. So it's combined with the initiative that others in the car, inside the car, things outside the car distracting you. Driving this way has a highest number of crashes. When you are distracted by people or things outside or daydreaming, it has the highest number of crashes out of all of them. In 2016, 43,530 crashes were caused by those who were just simply thinking about something else. See, out of those crashes, 3,289 were devastating crashes, meaning somebody was injured in a major way. And 213 of those crashes resulted in a fatality. Now, many of us fall in danger of this type of driving. And it's not maybe us driving, but maybe it's someone else driving because they're distracted and they're going in different places and their mind is not on what they are doing. See, our world is so much bigger than what's going on inside our little bubble. We need to be so focused. If the kids are acting up, maybe you say something, but you don't turn around and you don't try to spank them or do whatever. You calm them down. When people are in your car with you, when they're Snapchatting and they're taking pictures, you don't participate. To me, this is the most dangerous of all the categories, is the fact that we get so distracted by all the people around us and all the different things that we fall into that place where our mind is somewhere else. It could be you fall asleep. Have you ever fallen asleep and you're going across somewhere, you're driving somewhere, and you don't remember how you got there? Sometimes you may even be in that stance of daydreaming where you don't remember how you got where you were going. See, we as individuals need to take a stance and say, I'm going to do all I can to stay focused on the road. I'm going to do everything I can, because if we stay focused, we have a better chance of arriving alive where we're going to go, where we're meant to be. And we're arriving alive helping others get there. It's not a guarantee that somebody else is not daydreaming and is not falling into this and they'll cause a crash. But guess what? We can control who we are. The next one is the visual aspect of distracted driving. It's pretty self-explanatory. It means that you take your eyes off of the road. You're looking at other things. And it kind of fits in with the other category, but it's not so much there, because this could be your electronics. This could be the people in your car. It could be an event that's going on down the road. It could be animals in a field. It could be, I have a bad habit of looking for deer or turkeys while I'm driving down the road, and that's taking my focus. That's distracting me from what I'm looking at in front of me, and it's hazardous. See, to successfully avoid an accident, you must pay attention to what's going on in front of you. You have to be looking at the roadway. And a study shown that I looked at on flhsmv.gov, their website, it shows that the distance a vehicle travels from the time a driver actually sees an incident or hazard in the road, how far it travels before it actually stops. Now this means that he sees it, I see a hazard, I see something, and I start to brake, I react. So how long does it take, or how far does it take for you to actually stop? Well, if a driver is driving 20 miles an hour, now that is really slow. It's really slow, and most of us don't drive 20 miles an hour, but if he's driving 20 miles an hour, it takes 69 feet to stop. Now, most of us drive between 40 and 70. So, if a driver is driving 40 miles an hour, it takes 189 feet for him to stop. Now, if he's driving 60 miles an hour, by the time he sees the incident, by the time he reacts and he brakes, it takes a whole football field. That's 359 feet for a person to stop. That's not a lot of time. That's not a cat-like reflex, if you ask me, because if we're slamming on the brakes, your car is going to skid. So if we're paying attention, we're looking ahead, and we're easing on that brake, and we're able to see the brake lights going in front of us, we have a better chance. See, understand that these people who are paying attention to where they are going. They're actually paying attention in that study. They're paying attention, they see the hazard, and they stop. Imagine what it would be like if you weren't paying attention and your mind's over here, or your eyes are over here, and you turn and it's right there. You're going to be in an accident. The final form of distraction is manual. Now, this category falls into taking your hands and your eyes off the road. It's completely taking your hands off and taking your eyes off. This would be anything to do with electronics, putting on makeup, girls, food, eating food. How many of us eat food with our knee and try to eat and drink and all those different things? Or reaching for something that's fallen. Something falls, your phone falls or something like that, and you're down here reaching for it, or drink a bottle of water, whatever it may be. You're taking your hands off the wheel and you're taking your hands off and you're taking your eyes off and you're looking at something. See, again, during the year of 2016, Florida accounted for 5,701 of these types of crashes. Out of these crashes, 274 of them were considered devastating. Those people were crippled or paralyzed or something. And 22 were fatalities. Now, one may look at that number and say, well, that's not a lot, Chris. That's not a lot of people. My question to you is, would you want to be one of those in 2017? Would you want to fall in that number 22 or any of those numbers in your own life? The thing is, every one of us gets in a car every day, and we never think that this is going to affect us. We think that we're going to get to point A to point B and back to A or B, C, D, wherever we're going, and we think it's not going to affect us. But guess what? We never know what's going on in someone else's life. We may be focused, we may be driving, but guess what? There's no guarantee that the person next to you is not daydreaming, or the person next to you is not texting. How many times have we rode by someone and we look over and we see them texting, we go, I can't believe that person's texting, but yet we do it also. I am guilty of that. So the only way that we can guarantee that we're going to make it is to help ourselves not do it. and to pay attention to what's going on around us. And if we see someone who is texting and acting that way, guess what? We try to avoid it. Just for the records here, though, studies have been done where it takes an average of 5 seconds for someone to read a text. Now, that's 5 seconds for you to look down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that 5 seconds of you reading a text, and you're driving 55 miles an hour, you have bypassed 360 feet, which again is a football field. That's a football field that you can't account for. You have driven blindfolded. And what could happen? It only takes 1 second for an accident to happen. But we'll look down and we'll pay attention to a phone, and we think that it's more important than our own personal lives or someone else around us. And see, we don't take that in consideration. We think that Bluetooth, we think that talk and text and all these different things, that's what they're for. Well, listen to me. Out of all the studies I've done, I've looked at, and those are part of being distracted. When your thought is on those things more than they are on what you're actually doing. So my plea to you is put your hands on the wheel. Put your eyes on the road. And drive where you need to drive. Pay attention. See, these statistics of driving distracted is rising. They're growing. Adults and teens have been have made technology such a part of their lives that while they are in the cars, they don't want to do without them. And I've seen too many videos and too many moms and too many dads and too many brothers and sisters who are weeping and crying and wishing that their loved one had not have sent a text and that they could have arrived alive. It's devastating. Too many of them have these injuries where they're paralyzed and they're never the same again. Just like the fictitious story I told you about Jimmy and Chad and Jane. See, my hope and my prayer is that through this presentation, someone would be moved enough to say, you know what? I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to pay more attention to what's ahead of me so that I can arrive alive. I know in my study it affected me. And I pray that it persuades you to arrive alive.